We invite you to sing our gathering song, "The Human Touch Can Light the Flame." The words will be on your screen. The human touch can light the flame, which gives a brightness to the day. The Spirit uses mortal flame, life's vehicle for work and play. The lover's kiss, the friend's embrace, the clasp of hands to show we care, the light of welcome on the face, our treasured moments all can share. May all who come within our reach be kindled by our inner glow, not just in spirit's words we preach, in human touch love's faith we show.
Good morning, and welcome to the Mount Diablo Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm the Reverend Leslie Takahashi, and my pronouns are she and her. We're so glad that you have chosen to be with us today for this holiday service, and we are very grateful to have you with us. We are here as a community grounded in values honed from our deepest roots. Our deepest religious roots come from the Jewish tradition, and so in that spirit, we wish you a happy Hanukkah today. Though you do not have to believe a creed to be comfortable among us, we do have beliefs that we commonly share among us. And if you're interested in learning more about those or anything that we do, please go to our website where we have lots of information. If you are visiting, please, while you're there, take a moment and fill out one of our virtual visitors cards. That has been a wonderful way for us to meet many new friends during this time when we cannot be together. So please do take a moment and do that. For the holidays, this next couple weeks, we have a lot going on, and all of you who are members and friends should have had a special mailing about this, and there is also a event section on our webpage that will also tell you more about these events. Today, grab your jingle bells and come carol with us starting at 2 o'clock. We decided, because of the changes that have gone on in our community in the last week, to make the first part of that a gathering for all of us to just carol along together. So we will be caroling together beginning at 2 o'clock, led by our own Scott Schrader. So please come. You can do it through the same live stream link that you used today to get on this service. We also had such a wonderful response to the gift tree that we had led this year that we have opened up a new giving opportunity. You can give gifts to our Winter Nights families this year through a new link that has been prepared by Reverend Rodney. So please do see your email for a special email that went out a couple days ago about how you may adopt someone for this holiday season, as well as to continue to write postcards to people who are incarcerated and spending the holidays in that way. As you know, because of the shelter-in-place order, we have changed all of our activities to be virtual, including our solstice service and also our 5 p.m. Christmas Eve service, which will be predominantly a service of carols as well. So we hope that you will join us and make plans to be with us for those activities. Caring and connection is so important during these times. So if a listening ear would be of help to you, especially during these holiday days, please do not hesitate to contact me or Miranda Lennox, as we are the two ministers who are doing pastoral care for this congregation at this time. Please do be in touch with us so that we can get you some resources and you will know how much you are valued. This is also a time when we know that people are being subject to end of rent moratoriums and other things with their situation. So if you need financial assistance, please do not hesitate to ask me. Giving is a gift you give to our community, and all gifts are completely anonymous. Welcome. It is so good to be together.
Good morning. I am Linda Russell, a member of your Board of Trustees, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. We like to begin our service by reading together our church mission, which you can see on your screen. Mount Diablo Unitarian Universalist Church is a welcoming religious community. We bring to life our Unitarian Universalist values as we seek truth and work for justice, nurture compassion and courage, reach out to each other and to our larger community of faith, bridge the divisions that wound the human family, transform ourselves and our world. Our MDUUC community is such a blessing in these very challenging times. We continue to follow necessary restrictions of people and groups on campus for everyone's safety. But you are welcome to come by, visit the campus, and leave an encouraging message on the outdoor blackboard for your friends. Please keep in mind there are many ways that we continue to connect during this unprecedented time. There's the family gift tree for the neighbors, our neighbors, through Hope Solutions and Shelter Inc. Weekly guided meditations available through the website. Volunteer drivers for members and friends. You can sign up by contacting Miranda Lennox, our intern. Touch of the Holidays, casual circles that will be meeting weekly. And the Labyrinth is open from noon to 7 on Saturdays and Sundays. Please come, wear a mask, enjoy the Labyrinth. We are grateful and give thanks to many people, ministers, staff, and volunteers, members and friends who are creating the many virtual ways to stay connected and who are participating in the MDUUC community. These days can be hard, so remember, if you need help or are feeling isolated, please let one of our ministers know. Take needed rest, take care of yourselves. Welcome. It's good to be together.
So this week, as we gather, we do so looking for many sources of inspiration. We will be the ones who remember that we lived through the holiday season of 2020, looking for many different sources of joy. We are connecting to people and creatures and to those great sentiments that we love for our neighbors, new interests and hobbies, and new ways of making meaning and cheer. So many are decorating outside to show their neighbors what they believe, which is that we all are better together. We are continuing to have our moments of celebration and to be aware of the small beauties and joys in our days. We gather as we can. Many of us and more of us recommitting to our virtual gatherings as a source of support for ourselves and for others in these times, and for our walks and hikes together. There is much to be grateful for, even as we are in a space of reflection this holiday season. Third Sunday of Advent. And in the Christian calendar, the 3 Sundays of Advent, which are the 3 Sundays before the coming of Christmas, the birth of the Christ child, the birth of Jesus, who would grow to be a revolutionary teacher. Each candle is lit each Sunday, and on the 3rd Sunday, the candle is lit for joy. The word joy, etymologically, has many meanings. And it is clear that the sense of joy that is evoked is the deep joy, that deep joy of jubilation, the deep joy of rejoicing. We are a world that awaits a cause for rejoicing in this Advent season.
Rock of Ages, let our song praise thy saving power. Hanukkah, a rededication. In this time, let us rededicate ourselves to helping those who have felt powerless, isolated, and in need. A time to truly transform ourselves and our world, appreciating and protecting all the gifts we have before our eyes. Quoting Raphael Goldstein, "At this time of year, when the sun is most hidden, the holidays of Hanukkah celebrate the rays of hope and light. Often, it is through simple and unrecognized miracles that we are able to feel the warmth of hope and light." James Keller, "A candle loses nothing by lighting another candle." Albert Einstein, "There are only 2 ways to live life. One is through nothing is a miracle, and the other is though everything is a miracle."
Good morning. My name is Les Polgar, and my pronouns are he and his. Today is the 3rd day of the 8-day Jewish Hanukkah celebration. It is a relatively minor holiday compared with Rosh Hashanah, which is New Year, Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, or Pesach, which is Passover, and it's minor compared with even some others. But Hanukkah's proximity to Christmas and its 8 days of gift giving, the fun of playing with the dreidel, that's the four-sided spinning top, the food, the potato pancakes or latkes, these have all contributed to making Hanukkah a very popular observance. It commemorates the rededication of the Second Temple at the time of the Maccabean revolt against the Seleucid Empire in approximately 166 BCE. Hanukkah is also known as the Festival of Lights because it is celebrated with a candle for each of 8 days, lit from a ninth or attendant candle called the shamash. These 9 candles are usually placed into a very fancy candelabra made of metal. Now here's the menorah I made in 7th grade shop, made of wood and plexiglass and brass, because we had to use 3 materials of construction for our project. Although we celebrated the major Jewish holidays in my childhood home, we did not celebrate Hanukkah. In truth be told, each year we had a natural evergreen tree, but with no ornaments and no lights. My father knew trees. It was his livelihood. He loved nature. He was a pantheist at heart. So for us, this was definitely not a Christmas tree. But we were considered a bit scandalous by my schoolmates' parents. We usually, and very appropriately, think about the meaning of Hanukkah as relating to religious freedom, to liberation. But for me, the story of the single day of holy oil lasting for 8 days is even more intriguing. Hanukkah for me is all about what we do when our perceived resources are thought to be insufficient for the challenges we face. Hanukkah teaches us that with faith, with confidence in the future, these meager resources might actually suffice. And right now I find that very comforting, and it is in that spirit that I call us to worship this morning.
Glad you could join us on this first night of Hanukkah. We'll say the blessing. Baruch Ato Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu l'chadlech ner shel Hanukkah.
One of the things I think for someone like me is the tradition of doing something that's been going on for many, many years, and to be a part of that now. So I'm wishing that the light that we have been lighting or will be lighting for the next 8 days will travel to the many big places of this world and shine and make things brighter and able to deal with better and be part of a group of people who will make that light continue to shine all year long.
Beautiful.
We invite you to sing the words of the invocation. You'll find them on your screen. We are here together in this holy moment, and we're grateful for the winding road that brought us to this place.
We invite you to join us in singing Mi Yimalel in English. The words will be on your screen.
Who can retell the things that befell us? Who can count them? In every age a hero sage came to our aid. Who can retell the things that befell us? Who can count them? In every age a hero or sage came to our aid. Ah, at this time of year in days of yore, Maccabees the temple did restore. And today our people, as we dreamed, will arise, unite, and be redeemed. Who can tell the things that befell us? Who can count them? In every age a hero or sage came to our aid. Who can tell the things that befell us? Who can count them? In every age a hero or sage came to our aid.
Tonight will be the fourth night of a wonderful celebration called Hanukkah. Hanukkah is a special time when many families all over the world celebrate freedom, miracles, and love. And it all began in a faraway land many thousands of years ago, where people lived in peace and worshipped in many different ways and in many different places. Among these people were the Jewish people, and they worshipped their God in a building called a temple. But the king of the land at the time was Antiochus, and he wanted everyone to do what he did. He went to the temple of the Jewish people and said, "You cannot believe what you want to believe. You must believe only what I believe and worship as I do." And he made them leave their temple. But the Jewish people did not like that. They wanted to believe their own beliefs and worship their own God in their own temple. So their army, the Maccabees, fought for their freedom and won. They went back to their temple and lit the special lamp. But there was only just enough oil to burn for one night. Then a miracle happened. The light lasted for 8 nights. Now, thousands of years later, Jewish people still celebrate this miracle of the light that lasted 8 days and their freedom to believe and worship as they choose. They bring out their menorahs, a beautiful candle holder with room for 9 candles. The extra candle is called the shamash, a candle to light all the other candles. Each night for 8 nights, they light the candles, adding one each night until the very last night. And they also do things together on each of the nights. They gather family together. They play dreidel, a spinning toy together. They eat potato latkes together. They sing songs together. They share simple gifts together. They eat jelly donuts together. They find chocolate gelt together. And they say blessings together. On the 8th night, all the candles burn brightly, and everyone remembers the story of the fight for freedom and of the miracle of the lights. Everyone is happy to be with people who love them. Now I would like to invite everyone to join me in singing our children and youth out to their activities.
It is the custom in this congregation, when we lose a member to death, to light a candle from the chalice in tribute. We light this candle today for our member, Nancy Landfield. Nancy, a longtime member who's been with us since 2004 as a member, died last Sunday on the 6th at age 95. Nancy died peacefully, surrounded by her children, her family, and her beloved grandson. We celebrate Nancy's life with a moment of silence. Nancy's family wishes you to know that donations in her honor can be made to the Food Bank of Contra Costa County, and that a service to celebrate her long and rich life will be held in the summer. So please stay, we will keep you abreast of those details. Let us today celebrate the life of Nancy Landfield. This is the time when we take into the loving heart of this community those joys and sorrows that are too great to bear alone. We begin by lighting a candle for Ed and Lee Lampo, of sorrow for the loss of Ed's brother-in-law and the life of their cousin, who will be removed from life support on Monday. Rodney is also lighting a candle this morning for Lori Smith, honoring the death of her mother, Betty, who had just turned 90 and who died after a long decline in health. We light a second candle for Lori herself, as Lori will be relocating after years of caring for her mother to Southern California to be closer to her children. We light a candle of concern for Errol Reyes and Rodney Lemry. Errol's father has been hospitalized with a non-COVID illness, and we are all praying for his quick recovery. We light a candle for Martha Goralka, who has had a fall and who is recovering with a broken ankle. We light a candle of concern for Endy Stark, who also went to the hospital after a fall last weekend, but who is now home. Endy says she is thankful she wound up with no serious injuries, just some aches and pains which we hope will heal quickly. We light a candle for Pamela Osnes, on behalf of Pamela Osnes. It's a candle of joy for her mother, Myrtle Osnes, who was discharged from the hospital on Monday after treatment for a secondary infection in her lungs due to COVID. We're so thankful, Pamela says, that a 98-year-old woman who has a pre-existing lung condition has done so well after a COVID diagnosis. The support of the UU members has provided such comfort to me during these times. Bless you all. We light a candle for Carolyn Campbell, who celebrated a birthday last week and had to do so without champagne. We light a candle for Patricia Craven, who writes, "On Friday, I entered the role of elder, according to the state of California. It was my 65th birthday, and in the year of COVID-19, I was able to share it with the love and wishes of my family, friends, and fellow members of MDUUC. Thank you all for your presence in my life." I light a candle of joy for the opportunity to work once again with Jim Lewis, who is now establishing his new life in North Carolina. We were so grateful to have this extra time with Jim, who we will see today. And we light a candle for Caitlin and Mikkel, who got married last week. I asked Rodney to light 2 final candles, if there's room in that bowl, for all those joys and sorrows that remain in the shelter of our hearts without words today. And a final candle that embraces this world and all the precious life upon it.
We invite you to join us in singing Rock of Ages, Let Our Song. The words will be on your screen.
Rock of ages, let our song praise your saving power. You amidst the raging foes were our sheltering tower. Raging they assailed us, but your arm availed us. And your word broke their sword when our own strength failed us. Kindling you the holy lamps, priests unbowed by suffering, purified the nation's shrine, brought to God their offering, and in land surrounding, hear the joy abounding. Happy throngs, singing songs, with a mighty sounding. Children of the prophet's word, whether free or fettered, wake the echoes of the songs, where you may be scattered. Yours the message cheering, that the time is nearing, which shall see nations free, tyrants disappearing.
Good morning. I welcome you into a time of meditation and prayer. Find a comfortable position to be in. Let your eyes close or lose focus. Notice your breathing. Let your breaths be as long as they comfortably can. Be with yourself in this body. This beautiful body that can do beautiful things. This body that can help create possibilities, love, miracles in the world. This body that, when joined with others, can magnify that power of possibility. And this body that may need tending and loving. This body that may feel grief, loneliness, exhaustion. May we tell this body soothing things. You are love made manifest. You have blessed and will bless this world. In this season of events, of religious celebrations, of family celebrations, I pray for peacefulness for those who are in a time of tending, and for all of us. May we remember the beauty which we can bring. Amen, and blessed be.
The puddles are all frozen and gray skies draw near. No one can quite figure out how we lost another year. The decorations dazzle all around my neighborhood, inviting us to fill our hearts with cheer. So let 'em shine like diamonds in the night. Let them fill us up with light, so we can shine upon each other like the stars above, with our greatest miracle, love. Judah and his brothers were a powerful clan. They re-sanctified the temple and reclaimed their land as a heavenly tribute to their courage and toil. They got 8 days of light from one jar of oil. Let it shine like a diamond in the night. Let it fill us up with light, so we can shine upon each other like the stars above, with our greatest miracle, love. In deepest, darkest winter, a child was born, sent to save a world that was tattered and torn. The kings who came to witness, who had traveled so far, were beckoned by the beacon of a star. So let it shine like a diamond in the night. Let it fill us up with light, so we can shine upon each other like the stars above, with our greatest miracle, love. doesn't matter who you pray to. Sharing this love is the only way to let it shine like a diamond in the night. Let it fill us up with light so we can shine upon each other like the stars above with our greatest miracle.
As Unitarian Universalists, we know the importance of connection. Our relationships to one another and the world around us are so incredibly vital and exact examples of how we give and live our values. Part of honoring that commitment of relationship is through the financial support of this community. Now is the time in our service where we invite all of you who can to visit our website at MDUUC.org and use the Give Now menu selection to share in the fiscal responsibility of this community. If financial support is not a possibility for you now, even in this virtual life we are making for ourselves, there are so many other ways we need you to help contribute to this, our community. And we ask you to contact any of the ministers if you feel like serving in this way would be meaningful to you. Thank you for remaining to be connected and choosing to support the life-giving work of this church. Our offerings will now be given and greatly received.
to the work of this community in transforming ourselves and our world, we dedicate ourselves and our offerings.
I have said it before, and I'm going to say it again. I love our faith tradition. It's a tradition that allows each of us to fully search for our place and relationship to one another, the world around us, and yes, that to the mystery that defies understanding. Having been raised Catholic and then converting to Baptist, until Unitarian Universalism, I didn't think that any group would be able to respectfully and authentically light an Advent wreath alongside the candles of Hanukkah, all while honoring the faith that we have that light will return during the longest night of the year, winter solstice. Our faith movement is just that, though. It encourages us to hold multiple truths at the same time. I believe that our faith can help heal some of the deep wounds of our community and our country by stressing the importance of our relationship to and with one another over any sense of individual righteousness. Essentially, how we define our group collection matters. While I am not of Jewish descent, our faith movement is grounded in the ancient teachings and wisdoms of our Jewish religious ancestors. And throughout the year, it is very common to see Unitarian Universalist congregations around the country lift up and pay gratitude and respect to these religious ancestors as we are doing today. It is a part of how we honor the importance of our relationship to one another and the holy above our individual beliefs or perceptions. This very practice is important to our collective group definition. As we heard in today's Time for All Ages, the Maccabees were a Jewish family in the time of King Antiochus of Assyria. This family was headed by the priest and father Mattathias. The story is told that one day a representative of the king instructed the keepers of the temple to offer a sacrifice in a way and to a god not in alignment with Jewish practice. Mattathias, the priest, refused to conduct the sacrifice in the temple, and when another person attempted to execute the sacrifice instead, Mattathias killed the man, and thus began the guerrilla-style 2-year war of the Maccabee people. Some Jewish scholars think of this time as a civil war between the religiously devout Maccabees, who stressed the importance of the law and the covenant between them and God, and the Hellenistic Jews, with their better economic standing in Greek culture, who sought to incorporate the larger societal influences into their daily Jewish practices. In any case, the war continued for 2 years until the temple was reclaimed and the formation of a Jewish state led by the Maccabees, who happened to also be called the Hasmonean, was formed. While tradition tells Hanukkah of focusing on the miracle of the oil lasting 8 days when there was only enough for 1 day, I personally am more fascinated by the human psyche and what makes us do what we do, what makes perhaps the Maccabees and the Hellenistic Jews do what they did. This brings me to a recent podcast that I was listening to. You're Not That Smart. That's the name of the podcast. My therapist suggested that I review the podcast and specifically focus on an episode on what is called cultural cognition, or tribal psychology. This wonderful podcast laid out the psychological research that tries to explain why we humans will often choose our in-group over any other group, even when our in-group is not in our own best interest. One of the interviewers provided a summary of a very famous psychological experiment that has now been repeated hundreds of times over, all with the same result. This particular experiment took individuals with similar demographic backgrounds and showed them an image of dots and asked them to count the dots visually. Then they were, unbeknownst to themselves, randomly assigned to two groups, overcounters and undercounters. What none of the participants knew, though, was that each group assignment was decided by the flip of a coin. In fact, their counts were not even documented. Even more so, never did any of the individual group members meet with one another collectively. It was an arbitrary group membership. It did not facilitate things like the building of group norms. Once in their groups, the individuals were asked to distribute wealth among the entire research population, both the over and under counting groups. Without exception, every group member always deferred the positive outcome to their own group rather than that of the whole research population. The overcounters made monetary distribution decisions that favored the overcounters and harmed the undercounters. And the opposite was true for the undercounters. They made monetary distributions that favored themselves and harmed the overcounters. Over time, like I said, this has been repeated hundreds of times in various ways with various incentives, and no matter the outcome was the same. This experiment underscores to me an aspect of human behavior. When placed into groupings, individuals will defer to protecting the group to which they belong. In this holiday season, I can't help but wonder if the message is also identifiable in the story of the conflict between the Maccabean Jewish people and the Hellenistic Jewish people in the Hanukkah story. Here were these Jewish people that had made such economic and cultural strides that fit into the Greek culture, these are the Hellenistic Jewish people, while simultaneously still practicing their Jewish faith, albeit in new ways. These Hellenistic Jews had defined group membership into their own identity, separate from the more traditional Maccabean practitioners. Each vowed to protect their group from the other, and a religious war began. I know that I, personally, am very willing to group myself and protect other like-minded folks, often at my own emotional and mental detriment. This is something that I recognize and I am actively combating against. The past 4 years, for example, have resulted in many damaged personal relationships, deteriorating health, and concerns about financial well-being. In short, it's been personally brutal, and I know that I'm not alone. And largely due to this podcast, I look around at how I, or perhaps we, all repeat this same pattern of cultural cognition. It sometimes saddens me and overwhelms me. We draw lines like mask wearer, no mask wearer, Trump supporter, not a Trump supporter, moral, immoral, COVID positive, COVID negative. So many divisions, so many arbitrary groups. And I know that when I do this, I am drawing very confining circles of belonging, often ignoring the effect on the greater community at large. As a nation, we have just completed a 2-week period where, according to the WHO data, the average daily deaths of COVID-19 in the United States alone were averaging at 2,400 a day. This fact is very difficult to hear and understand, especially if our lived experiences are in direct opposition to it. For example, I personally know at least 7 individuals who have had COVID-19. In that group, all have survived, and none show signs of long-term effects, although that is still unknown. None of my relationships that were directly affected by this infection required hospitalization, and 2 people were completely asymptomatic. So when I hear the average daily deaths of 2,400, it is, if I'm honest, a bit distant and becomes easy to start to maybe believe some of the misinformation about the virus, or perhaps to lower our guard. And yet, we can't ignore data. The tragic loss of these lives, most of which were arguably preventable through distancing and mask wearing, should not diminish just because my group membership and beloveds were not in the 2,400 daily death count. Just think about that number for a moment. 2,400 deaths in a 24-hour period is 100 deaths every hour and roughly 2 deaths every minute, or 1 death every 30 seconds. It is important for us to define our groups appropriately. The wearing or not wearing of masks is a terrible but accurate example of this kind of cultural cognition at work. So I should tell you that upon winning the war back to the Maccabees, the Maccabee Jewish people became the kings of Israel and forced the Hellenistic Jewish people to denounce the Greek influence and readopt traditional ways of Judaism. Now, morally, I find brute force into acquiescence to be a bit over the top, maybe not the way we want to go. But I wonder if there might have been another way. In this Hanukkah season, I wonder what might have happened if instead of redefining group membership into Greek-influenced and traditional Judaism, that instead, if both Jewish groups could have come together and redefined their group membership in a new way to facilitate an uprising against what I, at least in my humble understanding, see as the true oppressors, the Greeks themselves. Could that have been a solution to fighting against cultural cognition that divided these two groups, these people? A redefinition of the group? No more are we mask wearers or non, but rather responsible citizens united to squash a viral threat that affects all of us. No more are we Trumpers or anti-Trumpers, but simply Americans concerned with the betterment of this country and its citizens. No more are we woke people or sleeping people, but citizens united against systemic oppression of all kinds. If we as individuals instinctively protect the group to which we belong, maybe widening the circle into a bigger group, one that is enough to contain all, could be an answer. This is a complex and very weighty topic. And for sure, I know that our association's work on widening the circle and perhaps our emphasis on covenants, that our faith tradition could be the one in bridging the differences of the human divide and finding a new way to define our groups, drawing our circle wider. So in this special holiday season, I would love to see us understand the combined lights of Hanukkah, Advent, and solstice as representations of our individual worth and dignity, combining together into a brighter love, redefining what it means to be together as a group. It is in the honoring the collective light of the season and beyond that we can be the change that we want to see in this one precious life. May we be the ones to let our light shine.
We invite you to join in singing "This Little Light of Mine." The words will be on your screen. I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
As some of us learned today, when lighting the Hanukkah menorah, the lights are lit with the middle candle called the shamash. And I would love for all of us to maybe think of that as a candle of servitude that brings its light to all of the other candles. So as our chalice light goes out, may we each remember to be the shamash.